Muffet McGraw is a national voice in the quest for equality in sports and life. Breaking news: Secretary of State Pompeo says Iran is responsible for latest Gulf tanker attacks. Details to come. This story appears in the June 17, 2019, issue of Sports Illustrated. For more great Muffet McGraw, head coach of the women's basketball team at Notre Dame, has to her credit 923 career wins, 9 Final Fours, 4 AP Coach of the Year awards, 2 national championships and a spot in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Few coaches in it, and yet none of that, really, is what made her distinctive name a household one earlier this year and prompted a tweet from President Obama, a voice everybody should hear, a text message from Serena Williams, and a letter from Hillary Clinton, which is now affixed to McGraw's fridge at her home. No, it was something she said at the press availability before the Final Four in Tampa. McGraw was asked, amidst the currents of Me Too and a broader political uprising among women, a movement had found a new messenger. Though McGraw's word, McGraw has coached long enough and played before that, as a guard at St. Joe's to have seen improvement for women's sports, though, had the unintended consequence of making those coaching jobs newly appealing to men. Before Title IX, this is the only example in an employment sector where women's job share is declining rather than increasing over time, says Marjorie Snyder, the Senior Director of Research and Programs at the Women's Sports Foundation. 4 of the 8 over time, McGraw had gotten used to news coverage that dwelled on her outfits, marriage and motherhood, and to being the only woman in whatever athletic setting on group golf outings, on the playground basketball court. It never really bothered. The problem, McGraw says, is that most college athletic directors are men, and men hire men. Men network better. Society at large sometimes has trouble seeing women that way, too. In April, well, I expected some sort of comment would come out of Connecticut when I said that. For the record, McGraw's viral commentary may have been delivered off the cuff, but in many ways it represented a distillation of her long-standing approach and views. In 2014, Muffet hasn't changed, Engelbert says, citing her clarity in messaging and her tenacity. Over the years, since Pat Summitt's passing, McGraw says, no woman in college sports has been the chief evangelist for their cause. McGraw's new for inspiration, she looks to Serena Williams, and outside of sports, to Professor Arthur Bryn Brown and to Clinton and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She has also it's hard not to notice how many of those figures reside in Washington or hope to, especially given the clamor, after McGraw's remarks, that she should run for office. Will she? McGraw will, though, be joining the boards of some foundations and doing more public speaking, to bring her message of equality and empowerment to new audiences. She doesn't really
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.